Call a meeting to order. We just came back from out from an executive session, so we had a roll call before. I actually am going to ask that we, at the beginning here, that we observe a moment of silence for the student that was killed in an automobile accident, Dre Martocchia, who was a middle school student and then was at Minuteman and passed away tragically just recently. So maybe if we could stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. First item on the agenda is the high school student advisors. Welcome.
So, hi everyone. We're back at our second week at school from February break, and we have some exciting things going on. First is the Girlhood Project. It's a 10-week program that female students can attend. They get asked to attend. And they meet every Tuesday during all 3 lunches, and they have the opportunity to talk about various topics and issues involving being a woman in our community. And so next is sports. Both the boys and girls basketball teams made it to playoffs, and unfortunately, they both lost in their second round. That was over this past weekend. And boys hockey is playing tonight. Last I heard, the score was 1-1. And they're playing Swampscott in Stoneham, I'm pretty sure, so fingers crossed for them. Cheerleading is moving to regionals after they won first place for their division over the weekend at Wilmington High School. And coming up this month, we have our pre-prom and pre-junior cruise meeting. It's on March 25th at 7, and all students, juniors and seniors that plan to go to prom or junior cruise need to attend with a guardian or parent. So, yeah.
Hi, I'll be talking about a few things. First, the musical. I heard it went great from people in the cast, and I would agree. I saw it, and it was really, really good. They mentioned that it was maybe one of the best Watertown High School shows in recent years, and so it's good to see that, the last one, for the seniors. Went well. It was February 28th, 29th, and March 1st, so that was actually the last one was, what is that, yesterday? Yeah. They were preparing a lot over February vacation and throughout the last few months, and so it's good that they worked hard and it all went well. And then recently, new principal was chosen. That happened. And then people have started to prepare for Bandorama, which it was where all of the instrumental programs from Watertown come together to play in the high school gym. I hear a direct quote from someone in Bandorama. It's hectic. It can get to be super long, but it's really, really fun. And then Mr. WHS is coming up, and people are preparing for that. I think that's March 12th, soon. And also spring sports are starting soon. So it starts at the end of March. And so a bunch of things are happening.
Okay,
Thank you.
Questions? Is there a date for Bandorama?
Yes, it's in a few weeks. I don't know exactly when, though.
Do you?
I think it's on the agenda.
March 11th.
Oh, is it?
Oh.
Yeah, it's a week from Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
No.
Should be. I guess.
March 11th? Is that what's?
I think so. Yep.
All right.
March 11th it is. March 11th.
Okay, great. Thank you.
PM, WHS gym.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Next item, public forum. Does anyone wish to speak in the public forum? Okay. Seeing none, introductions. We have an introduction for the high school principal that starts this fall. Dr. Galston, do you want to
Thank you,
do some
yes.
introductions?
So we're very excited this evening to present to the school committee the next high school principal, Joel Jacobazzi.
Nailed it.
And thank you.
You got it.
And we're very pleased that he's here this evening for the introduction, but I just want to go through a little bit of the process and thank the people that were part of it. This was a very intense search. We started almost 2 months ago on this journey, and it included a round of screening committee interviews, and then time with the candidates in our district, and then we did go out and do site visits as well. And after that thorough process and listening to the students and the parents and the community members that came to the meetings and the teachers and the administrators, I'm very pleased that we selected Joel Jacobazzi to be our next high school principal. And a couple of the things that I thought were really impressive to me about Joel's candidacy, one is his commitment to Watertown. He has a family background in Watertown, but in general, a very sincere desire to be our principal here in Watertown, not just any principalship, but certainly here. And throughout the process, I know that he is very committed to meeting the needs of all of our students and really committed to that core value that all students can and will learn. And I think that his background, both in his teaching and his administration, really will serve us well. He was a principal intern in Boston Public Schools, and then he was an assistant principal in Scituate, and currently he is an associate headmaster at Boston Latin, and he will start with us on July the 1st. One thing that I tried to strong-arm Joel into playing the trumpet at Chicago. He minored in classical trumpet.
Yeah. I'll get back there.
And he'll get back there at some point in time, but certainly I think that is also just shows a little bit of the depth of his background in terms of what he can bring to our school. So very excited to have Joel here and welcome him to our community, and can't wait till July 1st. And thank you, Principal Lundberg, for all of your years of service to Watertown. I think we will do you proud with this selection moving forward.
You want to make some comments?
Sure.
Welcome.
Sure. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be standing here after a lengthy process, one that was, I think, fitting for the job. It's a really difficult job. It's a community that, in my selfish opinion deserves the best, and you guys really put together a wonderful process. Big shoes to fill, and I really am excited. I think the hardest part right now is I want to jump in and start showing up to school, and I can't yet, but this will be a kickoff for kind of some meetings to follow, just to kind of articulate an entry plan with Dr. Galston around who am I meeting with, who am I speaking with. My biggest task at first is just going to be to really listen and be excited to hear what's working and what needs some tweaking, and jump into the work. That's about it. Any questions on? I know it's a shortened bio, but
No, unfortunately, I was not involved. I wasn't on the screening committee, so this is my first time meeting you. But
Yeah.
I look forward to working with you, and we're all excited about the work that you're going to be doing. Again, I want to echo the thanks to Ms. Lundberg for all the work that she's put into the district. She is not leaving yet. She's still got to finish out the year.
yeah.
She has to pass out those diplomas and a couple other things to do. But she's done a great job, and, we look forward to working with you as well.
Well, certainly, and my contact info is readily available. If any of you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to meet or jump on email or anything. So.
Anyone have any questions or comments?
I did.
Go ahead.
Sure.
So I'm Kendra Foley. We met at one of the parent meet and greets.
Yeah.
So just wanted to welcome you. I'm really excited to have you at Watertown High School. A few years ago, I read an article titled, "If you want to fix the schools, go to the principal's office," just underlying the importance of that role and how powerful it is.
Sure.
So there's so much potential at the high school, and I'm just really excited to have you there to lead the place to new heights. So thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you to Shirley for her years of service.
Thank you. Yeah. Open doors. I'm excited.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming.
absolutely. Sure.
Next item on the agenda is the Teaching and Learning Showcase, which is going to be a presentation for the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, which has come before us every couple of years to make a report. I don't know if Dr. Galston, you want to introduce?
Yep, thank you. So we're very pleased this evening to have our partners at Wayside to present the survey data from the YRBS, the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, that was administered to our students at the end of the 2019 school year. They have, for many, many years, partnered with the schools and really led the charge of administering the survey and analyzing the results. Last year was one of the first years that we partnered with the Middlesex League just to look at some data with our surrounding communities. So it is a little bit of a change, but I think that in the end, we are very pleased and thankful to have the information that we have to help us direct our efforts within our schools and within our community to support our youth. So I'm going to hand it over to the experts who are going to walk us through the data.
Hi, everybody. Most of you know me. I'm Stephanie Sunderland Ramsey from Wayside Youth and Family Support Network. And in Watertown, basically, we run a peer leadership program that's been part of the schools for many, many years. And we have, as Dee Dee said, managed the YRBS data. It's been a blessing to have somebody else manage the data and administer the survey. However, it's been a little difficult at times to sort of bring it back to our community and what's important and what's been going on for all these years. We have a real understanding from year to year. So we have Ma here, who is our evaluator, and she brought together things that we've done in the past to share with you about comparisons, things that stand out. It's not the full breadth of the work that we usually do. We usually do a report that's really much more homegrown. We won't be doing that this year, but we will be coming to you, I believe the date is April 29th, with a community effort to talk about this data and figure out how does the community feel about it, how will we go forward. And I do believe in true Watertown fashion, we'll do restorative circles at that event. I will say a few more things about what's coming up for us after this, but Mim will bring us through the slides. Feel free at any time to ask questions. The screens are up for you.
Okay. Yeah, so I will be relying on the charts on the screen, but to give you a sense of, thank you, of the survey, there are about 135 questions for the high school one and 83 for the middle school survey. They were administered March and April 2019, and for among high school students, all were invited to participate. 73% responded at the high school, 91% of students responded at the middle school. So you have a sense of where this data is coming from. Who's controlling? Oh, I'm controlling the slides. Okay, so I'm going to share with you today substance use and mental health highlights. Looking at trend data over the past 10 years where we have it, as well as sex differences, differences in race and ethnicity, and a couple other disaggregations that we found were relevant. Overall, for substance use, the high-level picture is that it's gone down, which is good news. I'll start with tobacco. So in the chart, you'll see this is looking at only high school students and looking at cigarette use, which is the dark purple line, and then electronic vapor products, which is the green one, which we didn't start asking about until 2017. But for cigarettes, we have 10-year data, so you'll see it's gone down from 17% in 2010 to 4% high school students who say they currently smoke cigarettes. And then you'll see electronic vapor product use is much higher at 21% this year. At the middle school, only 4% of students say that they currently use electronic vapor products. I'll specify that the survey doesn't actually distinguish. I guess it's a little misleading to put this in the tobacco section because it doesn't ask what they're actually vaping. It just asks broadly use of an electronic vapor product. So moving on to alcohol, you'll see the dark line is, so this is high school again. Did you drink alcohol in the past 30 days? And which we consider to be current alcohol use. So 18% of high school students said that they currently use alcohol. 11% said they binge drink in the last 30 days. But both of these have gone down a lot since 2009, 10 years ago. And then I'll also note that for binge drinking that I show some grade trends later, but that 20% of high school seniors said that they binge drank in the past 30 days. At the middle school, 2.5% of students said that they currently drink alcohol, and that's not shown on the chart. Moving on to marijuana. Marijuana use has also declined. I think it might look a little different in 2 years. We're not really sure, given all the changes recently. But so 14% of high school students currently use marijuana, 2.3% at the middle school. Finally, looking at other drug use, 4.4% of students said that they used prescription drugs not prescribed to them, and it's 2.3% at the middle school. And then the chart shows the different types of other drugs, and it's at the high school, percentage of high school students who have ever used other drugs. That top one, prescription pain medicine, is at 7%, and it goes down from there. These four charts show by grade, and so you'll see the yellow bars show the data that I just presented to you for vaping, marijuana, alcohol, and prescription drugs, and then the purple bars show for grades 6 through 12. So you'll see the trend is that substance use increases by age, or by grade, and with one exception, which is that vaping among freshmen seems to be a lot higher, and then it dips a bit sophomore and junior year.
Is this saying that they've tried it once, which would account for like a 17, like a lot of ninth graders are experimenting?
Yeah, no, this is sorry, I should specify, this is current use, these charts.
Within
Yep.
the 30 days.
Within the past 30 days, yep. Any other questions on that?
Yeah, there was a question I remember on the survey, maybe last year or the year before, that stated, or I think your findings found that they had, the survey showed that more students had actually tried vaping before even cigarette smoking. Was that on this recent?
No, we didn't ask that
Okay.
this time.
And when there's a question like, we didn't ask what they were vaping, these are things that probably we will bring back to Middlesex this year and say, okay, there's a few areas of things that we'd like. And I think it's also true that within this group, if there's some things that we think are really important for Watertown to know, we will ask them to put that in there.
Okay, so this is just showing demographic breakdown of the students who responded at the high school level. And so we wanted to do a little bit of an equity analysis based on the data we have. And so for the next few slides, we'll be looking at LGBTQ plus youth, of which there were 14% identify as LGBTQ plus at the high school. 37% said that they receive free and reduced meals. And then for race and ethnicity, it's kind of funky the way the data came out, as it always does. But I'll just note, so there's race on one side, ethnicity on the other. For the data that I report, I combine American Indian and Alaska Native with multiracial because there are so few you could actually probably identify. And then Haitian Creole, there are also so few that I combine that with other.
This isn't every student, though, is it? Is it voluntary?
Yes, so it's voluntary. The N equals 483, I think that's most of the students who actually responded at the high school, 483.
Do you know what percentage of the high school responds?
73%.
And that's been consistent year to year for some reason, for all kinds of scheduling issues, and we have looked at it, turned it upside down. That seems to be consistent.
Yeah, well, and not everyone finishes it, and sometimes they throw it out if they only fill out a
There's
couple of
certain
questions.
amount of it.
Yep, so, okay, so I'll walk you through these charts, the way they're constructed. So this is past 30-day substance use at the high school by race and ethnicity. The darkest bar is electronic vapor products, so vaping. The middle bar is alcohol, and the lightest color is marijuana. On the very left, you'll see just all students at the high school, and then you'll see it broken down by race and ethnicity on the right. And the key points that we noticed when we were looking at this is that multiracial and American Indian, Alaska Native tend to use more substances, and that vaping is particularly popular among Hispanic Latino students compared to other ethnicities. So those were kind of our biggest takeaways looking at this. Moving on to gender and sexuality, LGBTQ youth are also more likely to use substances, and that's the case for all three, than students who do not identify as LGBTQ. And then lastly, youth who receive free and reduced meals are less likely to use substances compared to their peers. So that's it for substances. Any questions before I move on to mental health? I'm at 10 minutes. Okay. So for mental health, we looked at depression, suicide, and stress, overwhelming stress. So starting with depression, let's see, we're comparing high school and middle school over time. You'll see high school has kind of been consistent over the past 10 years. This year, 24% of students said they experienced depression at least, actually it's not frequency, experienced depression in the past year. Do you want to?
And that means that they've been sad or for more than 2 weeks in a period of time.
The survey uses the clinical definition of depression and just asks, have you felt sad or hopeless for 2 weeks? Yep. There were some gender or sex differences. 29% of females, this isn't shown on the chart, but 29% of females versus 19% of males at the high school said that they were depressed in the past year. At the middle school, so you'll see it's currently 18% of students said that they were depressed. The sex trend is similar. More females than males. Females were 26% and males were 11% who said they experienced depression.
Data, if that trends with national data as well.
The sex
Yeah.
difference.
That-
Yep. Okay. Next is suicide. The YRBS asks students if they've considered suicide, planned suicide, and attempted suicide in the past year. Suicide, and the chart here shows high school and middle school. It's kind of similar, and that's looking at students who have considered suicide in the past year. So at the high school, 12% have considered suicide, 3% have attempted, and these are pretty similar to 2017 findings. At the middle school, suicide ideation has increased. It was 11% this year, and it increased from 9% in 2017. But suicide attempts have decreased from 4% in 2017 to 2.6% in 2019. Not shown in the graph is that suicide ideation is more common among specifically 9th grade females and 12th grade males. We don't know why. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's hard to find, thank you. With context, I mean, in the slides you sent us before, you do a comparison to like at least the Middlesex League. Are there any either state or even Middlesex comparisons that would
Yeah, I think
give a
those
little
are in the
context to
report.
some of this?
They are in
The full
Middlesex
report.
the full report
Yeah,
for
which I
Watertown.
have, I
So-
just-
Yeah, so you can
okay.
find them there. And just to sort of bring it from a national level down, suicide is now the second leading cause of death between the ages of 15 and
Yeah, 10 and 24, as I saw that.
And so it's, you know, why is the big question. What we're really doing is tackling the how to recognize it and respond to the sadness and respond to the ideation. That's the way that we've decided to deal with that. And I can talk a little bit about how we do that after the presentation.
Okay, I'm going to move on to stress. A third of high school students said they experienced overwhelming stress always or most of the time. And that figure is 22% at the middle school. We found sex differences there as well, which you'll see in the chart, that at both the high school and the middle school, females are experiencing more frequent overwhelming stress than males. We ask about the causes of stress. Students are asked to choose the top cause of stress from among these, so they can only choose one. If you can't read it, busy schedule and school demands and expectations were the highest at 29 and 27%. And then going down the list, worrying about the future, family, personal issues, parent and family expectations about academics. 7% said getting enough sleep, 2% said social pressure, and 1% said extracurricular demands or pressures. Looking at mental health by grade, I'm showing you depression overwhelming stress, considered suicide, and attempted suicide. Again, there's this outlier where ninth grade, I think it's ninth grade females again have the highest proportion experiencing depression. And then another, you can't really see it from the chart, but under considered suicide, there weren't really other trends, I think, for the grades in this case. But for those who considered suicide ideation was the most common among ninth grade females, again, and 12th grade males.
And I want to point out there that those ninth graders are now 10th graders.
Yep.
And there'll be 11th graders when we do this again. So it's just to keep in mind, and we can talk about that maybe in another meeting when we're looking at the meeting for the 29th, something we might consider talking about what's happening there in the ninth grade.
Okay, just a few more, looking at mental health by race and ethnicity. So the darkest bar is depression, middle bar is overwhelming stress, and the lightest colored bar is considered suicide. Again, multiracial and American Indian teens are more likely to experience all three: depression, stress, and suicide ideation than their peers. And depression and suicide ideation in particular are more common among Latino youth than youth of other ethnicities. Same with LGBTQ youth, they're more likely to experience depression, overwhelming stress, and suicide ideation than their peers. And then when we looked at social economic status, we did not find any large differences. Finally, bullying. So we looked at students who experienced bullying at the school in the past year and students who have been cyberbullied in the past year. The key takeaway is that bullying is more common at the middle school than the high school, especially among females. And that difference is at both the middle school and the high school level. So that's all, and then I know Stephanie wanted to talk about Speak Week.
Yeah. So, I mean, any
Good.
other questions overall?
Just one question. From at the very beginning, when you had, looked like you had like a 10-year period on those slides, that would be on the substance use. Those were pretty dramatic drops over that time period. Is that reflected in other schools in Middlesex, nationally?
Yes.
Is it?
It is. We've made a more concerted effort. There's been grant funding, and we've existed on that grant funding for the last 20 years.
Yep.
And so I would say it's prevention at work.
Yep.
I think we look at things very differently now. We have a science behind us and a pattern that we use nationally. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
And we're really actually at a place now, finally, for many years at Wayside, we've been talking about the root causes of substance use, which are stress, depression, racial inequity, gender inequity, racism, all the things that we know to be true that are stressors on our young people and us. And finally, SAMHSA, Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, said, yeah, actually, you're right. You can now use your funding to look at those stressors, to talk about those things. And so we've shifted our work quite a bit. And just to talk about what you can't see here, some of the work that we're doing, we're working on a campaign actively about talking about adding positive coping skills to deal with your overwhelming negative stress. And we just had a meeting earlier today where we said, really, stress is not going to go away. We're going to have it. So why don't we talk about the usefulness of it, how to understand what it's trying to tell you, and then deal with it on a personal level and a community level. So that's some of the work that we're doing now, and it feels really great to be at that place. Wayside, as well as many other people in this room and in the community, are working with Deanne and Teresa on the equity, ABC, our anti-bias coalition. And we're really making a concerted effort to talk about this in the community. And I think finally people are feeling comfortable about talking about these things out loud in a community forum. We're talking about gender equity, racial equity, and just being kind to one another, basically. So that's where we're at. Speak Week, which is the last slide. We're bringing Michael Fallon. We've had him here before. Do any of you remember him from your kids or whatever? You're all welcome to come on Monday evening, March 16th. Is it going to be at the middle school or the high school? I'm still confused about that. Okay. It'll be at the high school. he always talks about kids and who they are and how they feel like they don't fit in and how afraid they are to be who they are. He talks a lot about that, and he's kicking off a week of us talking about sharing personal experience and knowledge. It started out as Diversity Week with your own Rebecca Rhodes, Human Adjustment Counselor at the high school, and now it's called Speak Week, and we're 10 years in the making, maybe even 11. So we have a whole series of discussions. Joey from Minding Your Mind, who's of the LGBTQ plus community, and a Puerto Rican young man, and he talks about his plight and ways that he deals with his life and the things that are uncomfortable and stressful for him. Moving on to restorative circles with the peer leaders themselves, and Ruth Henry, they're going to be talking about fitting in. That will be the topic. And I will be talking about reframing mental health, like We've Got This is what it's called. And I'm going to be talking to them about a pattern that we teach in mental health first aid, which I am an instructor. I've trained some of the people at the high school. I hope to train every one of the faculty in the next couple of years. That training is coming out with a teen training in the next year. I hope that we'll bring it here. 10% of the faculty has to be trained in order for us to bring it here. So it's a stage. And what I'll be doing with the kids is sort of taking those words and breaking them down in a more useful way for how do you recognize when a friend isn't feeling well, or your sister, or your parent, and how might you intervene in a way that's comfortable for you and you don't take on too much responsibility. So those are the things that we'll be talking about in Speak Week. And I think they answer to all of these things here. Substance use is what we used to lead with. Now we lead with wellness. Yeah.
First of all, I just want to thank you for all the work you do. I lost a student last week, so this is hitting me. But I also kind of wanted to piggyback on John's question, because I did notice that in 2014 specifically, we just saw this pretty drastic drop across almost all categories. I was just wondering, had the survey changed at all, or was it the same survey that was given?
The survey has stayed the same until the last administration of it, with minor differences. Let's see, 2014. That was, I believe, the marathon bombing year. What year was the marathon bombing?
2013.
That's when we had the spike. It was right after that. And we were aware that that might happen, and indeed it did. Can we say for sure that's what happened?
But maybe there's a
No.
correlation
Did we
there.
get reports from kids that that was what was going on? Did kids seek out counseling? Did Wayside get saturated with need for counseling? Absolutely. The Israeli trauma unit came in, if you recall. Jason's mom brought in and they trained us how to deal with this kind of a trauma. And indeed, we do believe that that had something to do with it.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
yeah.
Other questions or comments? Anybody? Yeah, Amy?
So during Speak Week, this is only at the high school, correct?
It's only at the high school, yes.
And do the students get to sign up for what they are more interested in attending?
So during
or-
the lunch activities, all the kids can come through because we do 3 lunches, and those things are also listed, and we can send you that information. You got it today. There's a bit.ly link that you can go on. 3 classes each, 2 times for each speaker. Michael Fallon is an all-day assembly, all
School
all
assembly.
grade assembly, yes, freshmen through seniors. And then in the evening, the community event, so middle school kids are welcome to come, and I think we should send that to you to send to parents. The other ones, there's 3 classes welcome into the lecture hall times 2. So basically, 80 kids in each session, and the teachers sign them up.
And so they're required to attend at least so many?
They're not required to. Teachers usually have an understanding if the kids want to go. I don't think they have to go, but teachers do bring them. We do give an exit survey. We've had really remarkable results and good feedback from the kids.
And then my other question is the peer leadership program. How many students are currently in that program at
I
Watertown?
think there's about 8 very active kids. We don't have a peer leader advisor right now, so myself and Maisa, our intern, are running the program. Maisa's doing a fabulous job, but I've asked her not to recruit because we cannot handle it because we don't have someone. We hired someone who went off to graduate school, and the next person we hired, who's really great and doing a wonderful job, became ill. And so she's basically resigned so that we could hire somebody new. If she gets better and decides to come back, great. In the meantime, we are looking for someone and interviewing for someone. So, yeah, 8 kids, but those same kids are in the No Place for Hate, they're in the King of Nonviolence, and they're really working across many different groups.
So how do we get more students engaged into this group? Because I find that that's probably one of the most important groups that we could raise awareness to a lot of these issues that we're,
I'm glad to entertain a conversation about that with you all and/or put out that question to you to get some email feedback. Mostly it's just being in the school and doing these activities and at these activities saying, would you like to be? We table at the beginning of the year, but until we have a peer leader advisor, I think we're really probably going to end up until next year when we really recruit. However, we do have mostly 9th, 10th graders.
Right.
With a couple of seniors.
I would be happy to help in any way.
Absolutely.
Thank you for all your work.
Yep, thank you.
Anyone else?
All set?
Okay.
Questions? Anybody?
All right, thank you for all the work that you do. It's very important, and the survey is very useful, and we'll get the word out about the Speak Week, and again.
Yeah, so we'll get that out to you tomorrow, and you
Okay.
can ask me a question. Many teachers, many people send me emails and say, I want to know this one thing.
Yep.
I will email Min or Ann, our other evaluator, or I will look it up myself. So it's accessible to you at any time, even if you have the report and you're like, I don't actually, what does this actually mean?
Okay.
That.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you
you very
all.
much. Thank you. Thank you. Next couple items on the agenda, we have 2 field trips that are up for approval. My apologies, usually we move those up, but hope you guys had to stay around, but hopefully it was an educational experience as well. But we have 2 field trips. Turn it over to Dr. Galston.
Excellent, thank you very much. Actually, we have, I think, people here to talk about their field trip, so
Yep.
I think that would be good to hear from the people that are sponsoring.
Good evening. My name is Erin McGovern. I'm a social studies teacher at Watertown High. I am proposing a field trip next April break, so in 2021, to England, Ireland, and Wales. I am co-chaperoning the trip this April, hopefully, fingers crossed, to Krakow, Berlin, Budapest, and there's one more too that I can't. Prague, yes, Prague. But through the popularity of my colleague Jim Buck's trip, which has about 60 kids that are enrolling, I've decided to kind of venture off and do my own. We start in Shannon, then we go to Killarney, and then Dublin, and then finally London, where some trip highlights include Stratford-upon-Avon, the Blarney Stone, some really, really positive aspects of the trip. Roughly, this is going to cost about $3,000 per student. There is a discount for early enrollment if students decide to enroll prior to the end of the month. It's through EF Tours, which is they cover pretty much every aspect and makes overseas field trips very, very seamless, hopefully. So, yeah.
Okay. Questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Thank you for leading this. I'm just wondering, why did you pick those 3 countries?
If you can't tell, I am of Irish descent. And, what better way to kind of experience my own heritage than bring along a couple of students with me? And England I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, so I think London is just a great place to see anyway.
Is there a minimum number that have to go for, or how does that work?
6, so a minimum number of 6. And there's 1 free chaperone per 6 students. I think Mr. Buck was hoping to get 6, but he ended up with 60. So, well, hopefully this trip is just as popular.
Yeah. And so do you go with students from other schools?
Nope, just Watertown.
Oh.
Just Watertown. Yep.
Other questions? Yeah.
So
Amy?
is there a limit on how many students can go then?
No, not at all. Yeah, we have, for this coming trip, we have 2 buses, 2 planes, and we have 10 chaperones.
So
You said that. Where is that one to?
That one's to Prague,
okay.
Budapest, Berlin, and Krakow.
And that's going,
That's going in April. Fingers crossed that the coronavirus doesn't spread further.
right.
Maybe.
So the signups for this for next spring would be
Towards the end of the month of March.
of this month?
Yep,
Okay, make sure I get on that list.
we'll do.
right.
Yeah, we'll do.
And so how many are going on the one that's coming up?
Just about 60.
60. Oh,
Yeah.
my gosh.
It's a huge number.
And some are capped, but not all.
Yeah.
Get the chaperones, I mean, that's the, as long as you have enough chaperones.
Yeah.
I've already gotten a couple of inquiries. I think Ms. Leonard wants to go.
So
She's already emailed me.
does the chaperones have, you obviously can't have staff, because then you would have no staff in the school. Is it for every six? Oh,
It's
during
during
the
break.
Never
Yep.
mind, sorry.
Yep.
I take that back, okay.
And is there any,
Yeah.
and we brought this up before about, financial aid for students. Is there any particular financial aid for the group that's going now?
So there was a discount for early enrollment. So if you enrolled prior to a certain date, you got $200 off of the total cost. And then they made it so that you could pay monthly in monthly installments. I'm not sure how much those were. They were a couple $100s. So you can, the earlier you do this, the cheaper it is in the long run.
Okay.
Yep.
And you have a full year to fundraise.
Yes.
So you can defray the cost. That's what we do with a lot of our trips, is we raise a lot of money outside, and
Yep.
then that helps us lower the cost for every student
Okay.
or offer scholarships.
I know we were planning to fundraise for, because we have to cover tips for our tour director and our drivers. So we were hoping to fundraise for those as well.
Okay. Any other questions? So is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the field trip.
Second.
Any other question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it.
Thank you.
Okay. Another field trip.
So now we have Jen Chiodo here to talk about another exciting trip planned for 2 years from now.
Yes, yes. So, good evening. Thank you. My name is Jennifer Chiodo. So after the Ireland and England, you can send your kids to Spain and Italy. So I am here to propose a trip during the February vacation of 2022 to Spain and Italy. And I will be doing this with my colleague David DeMaio, who is an Italian teacher as well at the school. The trip would start in Madrid. We would fly to Madrid, spend a few days in Madrid, head to Barcelona for another couple of days. We would then get on a plane, fly to Florence, stay there for a couple of days, and then finally, probably, I believe, take a bus to Rome and end our trip there. We have been using the World Strides organization, and we've been extremely happy with them. This will be our fourth trip, my fourth trip as well, leading a group using this organization. Twice was to Costa Rica. Last year, I took students to Spain, and then 2022 would be the fourth one to Spain and Italy. All trips have been extremely enjoyable, very successful. We've had no issues. Students will not be required to know Spanish or Italian. It will be open to all students at the high school. However, we do encourage students who do study these languages to take full advantage of their language by using it, every chance they get. Last year in Spain, I heard stories all the time about how they were very proud of themselves, ordering food in Spanish and asking for directions, and even just like in a store if they needed a certain size for clothing or things like that. But we're very excited to offer this opportunity. We feel that these are incredible trips. Just allowing kids to experience another culture firsthand.
Great, great. Thank you. Questions?
Kudos for being this well planned out.
My daughter will have 2 trips, one sophomore, one.
Okay, all right.
All right. Okay.
This is
Any-
finishing my vacation.
Okay. Is there a motion to
Make a
approve?
motion to approve the field trip.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nice have it. Thank you. Good luck. Thanks for your work on this. Next item is to the curriculum subcommittee, which has a report and then two agenda action items. Lindsay.
Yes, so Teresa, did we want to split it up and do decap first?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, all
Why
right.
don't you do the report first?
Oh, I'm just reporting
Just
first.
summarize it quickly, and then we'll approve the report, and then we'll go to the action items.
Perfect, all right, so we met last Thursday? Was it Thursday? Wednesday or Thursday, there was a lot of meetings last week. What is the date on there? I can't find it in my sheets. 26, all right, thank you. And so the curriculum subcommittee met and we discussed the district's progress on development of their DCAP and then also changes to the program of studies. We're going to be talking about both of those things in a little bit more detail. And so the minutes are posted. I don't know if anyone has any questions about it before the presentations, but.
Okay, so we have the minutes in front of us. It was in our packets. Any questions? All in favor? Make a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. So do you want to start with DCAP first?
Yeah, just by way of introduction, Mass General Law affords us the opportunity to, or requires us, the adoption and implementation of a district curriculum accommodation plan. And we have a very long, lengthy one in the district that has been around for over a decade, but got little use. And so under the fine tutelage of both the Watertown Middle School principal, Donna Martin, and high school guidance counselor, Jamie Leonard, they led a team of us, including the special ed director of student services, Kathy Damaris, and myself, and devising an elementary and a secondary DCAP, which is the acronym for it. And what this is a method of ensuring that all students' needs are met in the general education classroom. And it might be by supporting teachers in teaching and accommodating materials, but keeping the academic rigor high. So I think you'll see they did a fine job of this, and they're going to share both of them now. I believe the presenters today are going to be Jamie Leonard, and then also a school psychologist, Kelly Cochran. So I invite you guys to come on up and show us what you came up with.
Let me just say to the members here, we have in front of us on the table were these documents. I don't know that they were in the packet. They might have been.
There was a link to them, and then I believe that Ariel sent them today, too.
Okay, all right.
All right, I'm just going to start. Jamie and I didn't plan this. We did plan it, sorry.
Read it.
So, all right, so, I mean, you have it in front of you, and Teresa already sort of basically introduced the whole thing, what a DCAP is, and we aligned it, of course, with the district improvement plan. I'm just going to sort of run you through the process. And again, as Teresa said, Teresa took all my slides. So Mass General Law, we have had a DCAP here in the district since 2011. However, it's quite unwieldy, 17 pages. It reviews the GET process. It's sort of not usable, not user-friendly by teachers and administrators. So we're updating it. And then if you're interested in looking at it, if you have the slideshow, you can click the link to the current DCAP. Oops, sorry, Jamie.
That's okay.
Okay.
Can we pull up one going to, can we pull it up or no?
Ariel, can we pull up
The secondary.
Oh, secondary
That's
one,
fine.
sorry?
Yeah, we'll start there. So we've been meeting in the committee since October, I think. And there's actually a lot of committee members here, so I'm really proud of our work. We looked at about 25 other district DCAP plans, and there was a lot of similarities to what we had already had. As Donna had mentioned, though, it wasn't really a working document with our teachers, and we wanted to create a tool for our teachers to use. When they're having a struggling student, they have almost like a menu. They can go to it, they can find something that might work for one of their students, and it's right at their fingertips. So one of the primary goals of our group was to create a working document that teachers could use. So we looked at a number of plans, and then we sort of honed it down to 4 major categories, which I think everyone has, but the 4 categories we chose were curriculum instruction, social, emotional, behavioral, executive functioning, and assessments. And so we created under each category, there are a number of accommodations that all students are able to use if they need it. So the important piece here being that it's at the teacher discretion to see which.
Excuse me one second. Ariel, just move it up to the,
Oh, yeah.
keep going. There we go.
There it is. Yep, there it is. So actually, it actually is 5 categories, but the last one is extension activities, which I'll talk about in just a minute. But so we put accommodations listed least restrictive to most intensive in each category, so teachers can quickly find accommodations that might be helpful to them in the classroom or on assessments, social, emotional. And yeah, and then we added extension activities because it's for all learners, not just for struggling learners. So the extension activities that we put there are available all as well. And then on the bottom of each one, we put building-based opportunities. We did separate elementary and secondary, and I will let Kelly speak to what we did with elementary. But for the middle school, there are the library learning labs, the Title IV tutors, and the lunch groups. And at the high school, we have academic support, which is available to every student, access to peer tutoring, advisory groups, My Life, My Choice group, girls group, which I'm currently running, push academic support, reach out mentors, math lab, and writing lab, which is available to all students at the high school currently. And then do you want to talk about elementary, the differences? Yeah.
So like Jamie said, we felt strongly about teasing the two apart. When we were looking through a bunch of different DCAPs across the state, some had where it was all together, some had it separated, so we felt it was important to highlight the differences between elementary and secondary. As you can see, there aren't too many differences. There are a couple of things added specifically under curriculum and instruction. So again, more of those visual supports and things like that that the younger kiddos may need as opposed to at the secondary level. And then there was a few more added under social, emotional, and behavioral, things like access to buddy groups, social stories, and any behavior reinforcement or incentive plans. Those were the big few that really stuck out that differentiated the elementary versus the secondary. Executive functioning, assessments, and test adaptations, those are pretty much the same. And then if you flip to the bottom for extension activities, those are fairly similar. I think the biggest thing is the difference between elementary and secondary. There's no work-based learning opportunities at the elementary level. Those are just, we really wanted to highlight that they can work with older students and vice versa. We know that a lot of kids at the elementary level really like to go down and work with the younger kids and vice versa. And then at elementary schools, lunch groups are really popular, so that's offered to all kids. Title I tutors, Tier 2 for reading instruction and things like that. Anything else you want to add for?
No, that was good. And then, yeah.
So I can talk a little bit to you about the steps in the process. So we are here this evening. Prior to being here, we presented at the school site councils across the district, faculty meetings, and then PTO. That way we could gain feedback from families, from different community members, and also the faculty. Mm-hmm. So after those, we were able to send out a survey to staff that they could fill out any questions they had, what does this mean? And then we gathered kind of all of that data together, sat down as a group, took all of the feedback, and basically came up with the working draft that you have in front of you today. We're here this evening, like I said, and then what we're really aiming towards is launching this in the spring of 2020 and hoping to give teachers more guidance on how to access it. And then along with that, we are hoping to also publish it onto the website so that it's easily accessible for families and for teachers. And then part of that too, we're gonna have a DCAP FAQ page, which we're still working on right now. We noticed a lot of districts too across the state, we found that was really helpful. So if teachers or families have questions, hopefully their questions could be answered right on that sheet. So we're working on that as well.
Questions from the committee? Thank you very much for your presentation.
I have a question.
Kendra?
Thank you for your work on this. Appreciate it. Some of the things, I mean, I think I have a few questions. One is, as you roll it out to teachers, what are the supports and training you're going to help them to better utilize these things? And then from a parent perspective, I mean, do you expect parents to use this information? Or is there a way that principals will talk to parents about it? And then my third question is, it feels like there's, I mean, for example, like social emotional behavior, like fidget tools, that's like a very concrete thing you can do to support a child who needs something. But looking at something in extension activities, those are less concrete and less specific, and there are ways that principals and leadership are going to help support teachers in actually making those things more real, because that's one of the things that I think we struggle with, and I wonder how we're going to turn that into something real for in classrooms.
I forget your first question, Kendra. But all right, I'll start with the last one first. So for the extension activities, I think it's pretty hard. I think what we'll have to do is, as time goes on, and different classes and different subject areas come up with extension activities, and we can add them to the specific list for people to use as we go on. But it would have been, we've been meeting for the next 3 years to come up with a list of extension activities to put in this document to put out. But I think that's important to, as specific things come up, have references or links to documents for teachers to use for extension activities in their classroom. In terms of rolling it out to teachers, I think, and also parents, and step in if, you know. Do you want to step in?
No.
Okay. You know, I think we'll be having sort of training sessions. I mean, I think this may be a little bit more intuitive for elementary teachers or, you know, the younger grade teachers than like the upper middle or high school. Although a lot of teachers are familiar with DCAP, especially if they've come from other districts who use it more extensively. So I think we'll be, you know, having some sessions with them, and we're going to incorporate it. I know Jamie's going to work on this with the middle school as well, and elementary school, in terms of incorporating into the GET process. So really, as we're looking at if a child is having trouble accessing the curriculum, really looking at why, and can any of these supports help him or her sort of succeed in accessing the curriculum before we go to referring for special education, and what are the tiered interventions we can use. And so I think it'll just be a matter of getting familiar with sort of these different steps, and some of them will come right away, and some of them, oh, I didn't think of that. I think sometimes, even if we've been teaching for a long time, which I have, because I'm old, but I think, you know, sometimes you remember a lot of things and you forget some things, and so when you have the list in front of you, and that's why we made it with the boxes too, so you can check them off, say, oh, I tried that, I tried this, worked, this didn't work, things like that. So I think, and with parents too, we'll be letting them know sort of that that's there, and just in conversations, again, parent conferences or parent meetings, these are some of the things that are available. You know, what works best for your child at home, what do you think might work best for your child in school that will help them access the curriculum, so.
Just one follow-up.
I just want to say
go
one
ahead,
thing
yeah.
too, that a lot of the teachers are already doing these.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think sometimes it's just putting a label on it for them, just saying this is actually a DCAP and you're already doing it, and now it's here in a nice working document for you to get some more ideas. And so I think in my position, I often will have teachers come to me and say, is it okay if I let so-and-so try, you know, 5 extra minutes on extended time? I was like, yes, you can. That's a great idea. You don't need my permission. But like this, I think, is going to give them those ideas and that permission to be able to try different things. And just to try things in the classroom.
I mean, to your point, I mean, this, I see a ton of it already
For sure.
in the elementary school.
For sure, and the high school too. For sure. Yeah.
I haven't been there yet, but in terms of the extension activities, it doesn't, I don't know if this is not the right place for this, or the right conversation for this, but, because it makes so much sense when you think about a GET meeting.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it either doesn't fit here, the extension work, or else there's another way we need to do it to make sure that those exist in all the classrooms. I don't know the answer, but I just put it out there that.
No, it's a good point. Yeah, we'll take it back to the committee.
We looked at a lot of different DCAPs throughout Massachusetts, and so some of them had the extension activities and some of them didn't. We thought it was a good idea, so we put it in, but I think it's definitely an idea that needs to be developed more. And we have, you know, other members too, Ann and Joanna and Laura, so if anybody, if we're not saying something.
We had this conversation, whether or not the extension activities belong there. And I think, you know, within an elementary school, I think so many teachers are already differentiating. So it's hard to really articulate what that looks like in any given classroom, because it really depends on what the kids need. And it's not quite as easy to put in a box as it is, you know, fidget toy or something, I think. So we had that conversation, and I think we struggled with that.
And Kendra, if I could also add, I think the etiology of this is that it was developed and mandated by the state because we wanted to make sure that children were receiving accommodations and supports in the general education classroom before restricting and putting them students on an IEP and a special ed program when we could have done other things along the way. And I think that was the impetus of this. So that's why we have a small section on there of extending it. And as you mentioned, several of the other districts don't have any extension. However, to your point, which is a really good one that we do need to have more work on, and that is giving concrete examples of how we can extend it. So in the work that curriculum coordinators are leading in each department, part of the development of the map is that section right there, is how do we extend it and what are the specifics of it, and then putting that all into Atlas. So that is a work in progress for sure, and an area that we are working on.
Thank you so much. Other questions, comments, Lily?
Not necessarily a question. First of all, I love the setup for this. I think it's, I mean, as a teacher, I'm looking at this and being like, I love the fact that you made it a checklist, because again, I got it. Again, to me, you know, I don't know, I didn't realize it was intentionally a checklist, but to Ms. Martin's point, we forget that we have these strategies sometimes because we get into a routine. And I think just being able to reference this is so useful of, oh, I've tried these interventions, but wait, here's what I haven't looked at in a while, and maybe this is my golden key with this kid in this moment. So I love how this is set up and that it's so user-friendly for educators that they can just whip this out and go do a quick boom, 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 what have I done? Also, to Kendra's point, I think some of this is actually extension. In the way that you think about it, because, things about different methods of assessment are automatically extension worthy in a sense of if a student, is mastered multiple choice, you can make it an open response and things like that. So I think getting creative about that, we don't have extension in a lot of places. That's a new idea of adding extensions onto DCAP because it's really about accessing the curriculum, not necessarily extending it.
Right.
That's a new kind of concept. So I think it's something that a lot of districts are looking at. I know we're looking at it in Cambridge as well. And I just cannot say enough about how nice this is. It's just so well put together, and I really appreciate it. So thank you, guys.
Other questions? David?
My question is about process, and is there a process for making this living document continuously? Teachers are going to find new ways to do some of this stuff, and I don't know that we want to wait 9 years again before we decide that that's an important thing.
Yeah.
So is there kind of an iterative feedback loop that?
Yeah, I actually, the high school faculty asked for that as well. So when we presented to them, they asked if we could at least review it annually, so we could, and I think that is the district's plan, is to make sure we keep doing that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I think one of the documents that'll be live too is the FAQ. So sort of as things come up, as questions come up, concerns, we can put it there and address,
Okay.
address.
Yeah. And not only,
Have teachers have a link to add things or like to put suggestions? Like if they come up with a cool, like that would be,
All right.
I mean, make it the living document idea.
Questions?
yeah, I
comments?
just want to say not only with staff, but also with parents annually, so that principals will bring it to their site council meetings and PTA, so it becomes this live document, like you said.
I have one question. It does, just for clarity, is the full document going to have these concepts here and then like a definition of them? Or that's not part of it?
We hadn't talked about that.
Yeah, we didn't discuss that.
No, because I think we were just all teachers, so we sort of knew what it meant, but I think that could be part of the FAQ. If there were certain parts of it that, parents or whoever didn't fully understand, like sort of what that meant, we could put
Right.
that on there.
Well, I think to the degree it's a document that parents would look at, then I think you may want to think about something like that, because some of it is kind of things that, teachers are going to know these things, but parents not necessarily.
Yeah.
Many of them are self-explanatory, but some of them aren't. I mean, I can imagine just like one-sentence definitions of them, perhaps, kind of underneath the, this is a great kind of little check sheet, but underneath that, but something to consider. Anyone else?
I just have a quick question.
Yes.
The program where the students are invited in the elementary schools to attend the early morning lessons for test prep for MCAS, is that considered one of the building-based opportunities, or no?
I think it could be. It could be, but this is more directly in the classroom. That certainly is an outcome often of parent meetings and so forth.
Yeah. I just didn't know if that was.
Available to all students, so it certainly could be. I don't know if is it listed there?
We can add it, yeah.
Yeah, I think
It's a great
even
point.
as Jamie was reading the opportunities in
if
the high
it-
school, I
yeah.
was thinking, there was some in the middle school I could have added too. So I think there's lots of different.
Because I think they have to be invited to those groups.
They do.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for all your work. This is great.
Yeah, thank you. So is there a motion to approve the DCAP?
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Thanks for your work.
I'm putting this up in my classroom. So it's going up in my classroom.
Okay,
I love this.
next item is the high school program of studies. Who's going to speak to that?
Well, we have invited the high school principal
Okay,
and Laura Alderson Rotundo as well. to review the changes. Laura, as you know, is our CTE coordinator.
Okay.
And Shirley Lumberg is our principal. We invited Laura this evening because I think that you'll see throughout the changes that many of them have to do with career and technical education, especially with the implementation of our Chapter 74 programming, so.
So the subcommittee reviewed the document and then made a recommendation to the full school committee to approve the changes, although, I mean, I think we approved the entire document with the changes, so I had asked that the entire document be sent around, but we can focus obviously on the changes.
So I think you did get the entire document, didn't you?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all
Yes,
right.
we did.
So, not going to go through 99 pages, though.
That's fine.
Tonight. This is another document that is alive, and as it should be alive, because the world in which we live and the world in which our students are going to grow and work is an ever-changing world with a lot of new skills that need to be learned, and we try to stay current with all of that. So as I said, we have a 99-page document. You can see that it's lined out and new languages in a different color. Many of the changes within the 99 pages are moving the years up, changing things around, not calling out that it's a level 1 or level 2 class in the course title, that kind of a thing. But there were 7 significant or substantial changes within the document, so I just wanted to explain those to you. And I'll go by page numbers if that's what you have in front of you. So on page 9, you can see that there's a lined out section in there that was called School to Career. This is just outdated language in here. At one point, we had a single course that attempted to manage transition planning for all students. It didn't reach all students, and in fact, we have robust transition planning through the special education liaisons, through IEP meetings, through our transition specialists, through our guidance department, and all of that is reaching all students in a much more effective and robust way. So that other language has just been deleted because it isn't something that we're running separately. And then on page 26, under the fine and performing arts, we are adding there our percussion ensemble, which has begun at the middle school, and we have gradually been adding those percussion instruments to our repertoire at the high school, such that there is the ability now to run a percussion ensemble at the high school with students that have already taken this at the middle school. You may or may not know that we run our music choices in a single block. We don't do that too much because it constrains the schedule a lot, but we do that specifically for that because students have, I don't even know what happened over there. Students have multiple musical interests frequently. If they play an instrument, they also sing, or if they play one instrument, they might play two. So what we have done is we've put all of those music courses into a single block so that on certain days, they can pull different groups together. It enhances our chorus that way. The percussion ensemble would work the same way. It would sometimes be part of the entire band. It would sometimes be a separate entity on its own. And it would run, like I said, in that same block that we run all the music classes. On 29 to 30, continuing in our fine and performing arts, this is a proposal which probably has some future in it as well as some current in terms of rolling out a full pathway of our drama programs. If you go back sometime, more than a decade ago, we had a fairly robust drama program at the high school, which through a series of lean budgets kind of got whittled away so that it was only an after-school activity. We've brought back in the last couple of years a couple of courses. We started with one. We have 2 running this year that they all run as semester courses. If we were to complete this into our full program, that's what you'll see on pages 29 and 30. That's dependent on additional staffing, so that will probably come in gradually over time to get us to that point. But the vision was written out and included in the program of studies this year, and you can see all of those courses. It caused a little bit of a rewrite on the 2 that we have in existence as well, so you'll see that. Page 32 is where last year you approved that we would participate in the Seal of Biliteracy for the high school, and we actually have like 100 students taking that assessment this March. That's amazing, right? So that language wasn't in the program of studies because you approved it after the program of studies was already published. So that language is just added in there, and I'm looking forward to seeing how many students we have to determine what kind of a seal or whatever we're going to put on their transcript. There is a template, though. We know what the state does with them, and last year was the first year any schools did it, so looking forward to that. Pages 34 and 35 We've added a level 1 of Arabic 5. We only offered Arabic 5 as an honors course. In reality, that will probably be taught in the same classroom as the honors course and heavily differentiated within there. That's how a lot of the world languages work that way. We don't have enough student interest or enough teachers to have separate teachers for that many different levels. So they do differentiate within the classroom, and they do that very well. Page 47, the Social Studies Department has been talking about their elective offerings. They have several, and they have some that we have had in the past, and so they decided to survey the current sophomores and juniors to find out what kinds of interests they had for electives. And the two that came out on top were military history and the Holocaust and world genocides. We're not proposing any additional staff to make this happen. It just might mean there'd be one less section of maybe psychology or civics, and one of these might run. But it'll run based on student interest and the ability to schedule it with the teachers. And the last part, I'm going to just give you a little overview because Laura has done the lion's share of the work on this. In our ever-evolving world, some things kind of go around in a circle and come back to the actual production of things and the deeper learning that comes out of that. And part of what we have done over the past few years, and I know Dee Dee has kept you up to date, is to start to talk about what vocational technical programming we can bring back to the school. Career Tech Ed runs not under Chapter 74, that runs under Chapter 71 in the Mass General Law. Chapter 74 is specifically vocational technical education, and we are looking to bring 2 programs in to Watertown High School, one of which is engineering technology, which we will build on our Project Lead the Way engineering programming that we have now. We can offer it both ways so that students who don't want to engage in the full pathway of the 900 hours can still take some engineering courses through Project Lead the Way as an elective. And the year after that, we're looking to add medical assisting. There was a lot of research done on the job labor market, what is available around here, and those look like 2 that we could probably hit the ground running in. So I'm going to let Laura talk to you about the vocational technical programming, because she should get the credit for the work she's done.
So I'm not sure, do you want me to walk you through how we're fitting this in, how we're going to expand the courses out to meet the 900 hours? I'm not sure, Dr. Galston, do you have a preference for where I start?
I think just basically how we're going to fold in the 2 programs, but certainly starting with this one, what it looks like in year 1, meaning next year for engineering technology, and then, although it's not in the program of studies, what the next coming years will be. I mean, it's in your chart, but not.
Right. So the Chapter 74 regulations of the Mass General Laws require that students who are in a vocational technical pathway have a minimum of 900 hours in their content area in the last 3 years of high school. Traditional vocational technical schools or comprehensive high schools that have more than 5 vocational technical programs also have to have an exploratory. We won't be at the 5. So, and our intent at the moment is to have 2 of the vocational pathways in the old high school and then potentially more in the new high school. That's not my decision. The way that will work is we currently have 4 Project Lead the Way courses at the high school. They will continue to be offered as electives to anyone who wants to take them, and depending on student interest, we will offer them. Anyone who chooses to be in the engineering technology pathway, the pathways will start in sophomore year because we don't have an exploratory. So students will take the equivalent of 2 full courses in sophomore year, 3 full courses in junior year, and 3 full courses in senior year, and that will give us just over 1,100 hours in their content area in those 3 years. In the program of studies, I put in a comparison of what a traditional high school student schedule would look like and what a pathway student schedule would look like. The difference ended up being that
language poses a challenge for students who choose to be in a vocational pathway in the schedule that we currently have. So there's a couple of things. The Massachusetts State University system and the University of Massachusetts waive the requirement for the 2 years of foreign language for a student who is in a pathway. And then there's a couple of other requirements. They can either do 1 year of foreign language, or they can do another year of math or science, but it doesn't have to be a lab, or they can complete 1 year of computer science, and they will waive the foreign language under those conditions. And we do have, quite a few options in terms of computer science and, of course, math and science, so those are available to students. Let's see. I think that's it. Are there any questions about any of the things that are in here?
I just have a quick question. So if I understand the chart that you have up there, so the students, engineering, technology, on that pathway side, just looking at that world language, so they do have an elective. And so they could do the world language as the elective?
It's one semester is the elective.
Pardon?
The engineering tech pathway, there's only a 1 semester elective available. So it's only a half a year, and all of the language courses are full year.
Oh, there's no way to take a language for a semester?
No, and if you're going to try to fit it in for the state college recommendation or requirement, it's 2 full years. So 1 semester doesn't really buy you enough of that.
So the half semester, half-year electives are right underneath it on page 12, correct? The ones that you offer in our elective program areas, that list there?
Page 12?
I'm sorry, it says 12 on the top of the page.
Page 60. Any electives that are offered in the high school. Right. Career and tech ed is just one area of electives.
I'm just really excited to see this. This is awesome. It's so great to bring in some voc tech and some wonderful programming. It benefits kids so much. And especially, I already love kind of what we're doing and giving some of that, but now having a full program to allow students to actually also get job seeking, and it really has some very tangible results, I think. So I'm really excited to see us pilot some of these programs and hopefully in that new school maybe even get up to the 5 and see if we end up with an exploratory to give kids more of an option to see what voc tech really is. So I'm extremely excited.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Yes, Lindsay.
I just wanted to make just a quick comment that we talked a little bit about at our curriculum subcommittee meeting, is that, number one, Laura, thank you so much for your work in this program. I know we've been working so hard to get it done. But also just, it's so impressive to see the program of studies that we offer and how creative teachers are willing to be to offer more than one section at the same time, and have more than one music class running at the same time to get kids what they need and what they want. And so, just as a parent in this community who has young kids, I'm just so appreciative of how robust that program of studies is and what we're able to offer, given the size of our school. So thank you to all the staff and to you guys for working hard on that.
Go ahead, Kendra.
Echoing Lindsay's thanks for all your work on this. My question was not related to engineering, it's more about languages, and someone can correct me, maybe Dee Dee can. There's a state requirement around languages, and we don't have that same requirement, and so sometimes our percentages look really low. And can you explain that? And is that something that we're thinking about changing?
So it's not a requirement. What Massachusetts has done is provided what they call the Mass Core.
Right.
Mass Core is a recommended sequence of studies for students, and they report out how districts do with the Mass Core. I think that yes, I think it would be ideal if we were to have either a requirement or something about for the 2 years of language that is the bare minimum for getting into college. But as we just mentioned this evening, like with the Chapter 74 programming, it's a waived requirement. So our students who are in Chapter 74 wouldn't be held to that same requirement. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're about 90% meeting the world language Mass Core 2-year.
We're high on it. I don't know if the percentage is 90%. Where we're low is we've
Yes.
mislabeled some of our art courses. So they're not counting as the art course, and that's where our deficit is in the Mass Core. But I have the list of what those codes need to be and the names so that I can match them up, but it's going to be a process.
So is this a technical issue or is it an actual issue?
Well, there's two different things we're talking about. One is world language and one is art.
No, I know, but for
Art's
Mass
technical.
Core, I mean, just as a parent, you see those numbers and that's not something we want to be seeing. And it dissuades families, so I want to, is it actually like a technical issue that we just need to enter numbers correctly? It is.
That is what it is, exactly.
Okay.
And Shirley's working with our information technology manager
It's
to
deep, it's
work through
behind.
that.
It's not something I normally input, so I didn't even know, except that when I broke that down, I saw that it was the arts number that was low for us. I'm
Okay.
like, that can't be true. We have tons of kids in all of our fine and performing arts. And it's because they're coded, some of them are coded CTE, some of them are coded whatever, but they're not coded the right code to get counted as Mass Core, even though they're eligible. So we just need to switch that coding in the background. And then, yeah, I'm in the middle of that right now, trying to figure out the best way to do the crosswalk.
Right.
Well, I want to pick up on that, too, because I think that piece is the technical part, but the language is a little bit different. I don't think that's necessarily technical. I mean, our requirement is, we say 3 full-year courses strongly recommended. So we don't have a formal language requirement?
We do not.
We do not. So there's where we would fall down with respect to the Mass Core.
Kids that
Right.
take it, though.
You don't,
No, they do,
No,
but.
we don't require it.
the state doesn't require us to have it, and they don't knock us down if we, I mean, they would report out 90% of students meet Mass Core, or 100% of students meet Mass Core.
Regardless of whether we require it.
Yes, yep. We could hit the 100% target even if we didn't require it, if every student took world language, but not every student does. Internally, I think we need, I mean, I've said this before, you know, I'm a firm believer that every student can be successful in world language, if given the appropriate supports. And I do think it's a life skill to learn a language and to appreciate a culture. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't move towards that requirement, but I think that we're already, you know, realizing that if we move in the direction of Chapter 74, we're going to have 2 tracks for
Right.
what we require of our students. And one last thing, don't forget that we have, all of our students will soon be, in 2 years, heading into our middle school, having taken Spanish. So we're going to, you know, really have to rethink everything that we do around world language and the opportunities that we have for our students. And for sure, when we get to that place, I'm not sure why we wouldn't have a requirement.
Well, I
Or
would.
they might have met the requirement.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think we're, not only, we typically meet it, but I think it would be beneficial to be in a position where we can say, we have it as part of our requirement. And I think also, if I remember correctly, part of the issue was, from the Mass Core, was you had to take 2 years of the same
Yes,
language.
you cannot switch.
Right, right.
That is
which
correct.
Which, you know, probably most students do, but maybe some don't. So that would be another issue that we would want to address, but I just think it would be nice to be able to say, yes, we have met that requirement, that we're consistent with that core Mass Core.
Can I mention one other thing? The Mass State University system also waives the requirement for English as a second language applicants and learning disabled students. So it's not just the vocational technical, so there is a population of students for whom language is not necessarily an appropriate requirement, so that's my
So we would have to build that into our requirement if we actually made it a requirement.
Right,
Yeah.
and you would consider things such as requiring that every student attempts, and then determining if they're successful. Because again, I firmly believe that every student can be successful in language as long as you modify or ensure that there are multiple ways to enter into language acquisition. It's not just grammar and writing, so.
Okay. Okay, other questions on the program of studies? Anything else? So is there a motion to approve the high school program of studies?
Make a motion to approve the high school program of studies as amended.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it. Thank you. Thank you very much for all your work. Let's see.
By the way, hockey lost 2-1 in the last minute of the game.
Oh, Bad news.
But they did well.
They did very well.
Yes.
There was a piece in the Globe about them.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, next up is the Budget and Finance Subcommittee, and we have a report there. Kendra sent that around today. So we have, if you want to go through that,
This will be
Kendra.
very quick. So we met on Tuesday, the 25th. Two items. One, we went through the recommended budget, talked about some of the cost drivers, some movement in and out of a grant to save funds, as well as some of the priorities that the administration would like to focus on for FY '21. We also reviewed the communication support for the district, which is a memo that you all have in your packets tonight as well.
Okay. So we have the report in writing. Any other questions? Or is a motion to approve the report?
I make a motion to accept the report.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, thanks. So we have one action item, which is the part-time communications position. And so, I don't know, if Kendra, you want to add more to that, or do you want to
No, just
hand it over to
superintendent.
superintendent?
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you. First for, sorry, considering this, as I can't communicate. So I just want to speak a little bit about why it is that I think that the addition of a part-time communication engagement and community engagement and communication strategist would be very beneficial for our district. I think that we're all very aware of the fact that we are moving into a building project that is involving 4 out of 5 of our schools. And I think we also know that there's been an increasing demand for effective and timely communication from our school department, for our families, and our community. And I think that having a part-time community engagement and communication strategist to assist in that day-to-day work will be able to move our district in a very positive direction and to raise community awareness of our schools and engagement in our process. So as you know, one of our strategic objectives in our district is really increasing community engagement. And we have done a lot of work with this. I think that if you ask most people, they would say that there's certainly a lot more effective communication happening. We've updated our website. Our principals, send out weekly newsletters. I think that we are working really well in terms of what we can do. But I think that we may have reached our capacity as an organization in terms of taking it to the next level, and certainly being on top of the communication that's needed for our Building for the Future initiative. So I think that my point in advocating for a part-time communication strategist is that this person would be specifically and completely dedicated to the job of distributing and disseminating information for our district. We have content curators for our website, but their job right now is simply to take content that's given to them and put it on the website. But right now, it's hard to ensure that that content is given on a very regular basis because of the fact that all the people that are contributing obviously are very busy and occupied with the positions that they have. And above and beyond which, if we were to hire a part-time communication strategist, we would be looking for somebody who actually is trained in marketing or communications or journalism. That is not something that we had a communications committee that we worked with, and one of the acknowledgements is that there's probably not maybe 1 or 2 people in our district who actually are trained in these specific skills, but it is not something that any of us have ever really learned. So I think in this day and age, having somebody who has the expertise, who has the dedicated time, and who understands what it is that we're trying to accomplish will certainly move our district forward. I did update the job description, which I can give you as just a minor update around the responsibility of being really to develop and implement the internal and external communications. It's just a little change in wording, but the job description pretty much remains the same. I'll just give you those 2. And I noticed that there's a space issue too, but that's besides the point. A communications strategist will look at my spacing and my verb tenses.
Okay.
So, like I said, it's not a substantive change, it's just in the first line, the changes to developing and implementing internal and external communications.
Okay, so The recommendation was from the subcommittee to approve this hiring of this part-time position at this point in time, and then I think it will also get folded into the budget for FY '21. So we can have some discussion. Let me put the motion on the table first. Is there a motion to approve this part-time position?
I make a motion to approve this part-time position.
Second? Okay, discussion, questions that people have on it? I would just echo what the superintendent already said about the kind of, I think, increasing workload. I see it in a variety of areas, but particularly with the building for the future, with the communication that's so important to all the elementary parents and high school parents as well. And that's just going to get more and more. It's not going to go down for quite a while. So I think that's very important. But there are other examples, too. Later on, Superintendent's going to talk a little bit about an annual report, which is another example of kind of communication. Other comments, Mark? Or
Kendra, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead, Kendra.
Oh, I just wanted to support it as well. Between the logistics around the buildings and the number of initiatives and moving parts around the work in the buildings, I want to make sure that the superintendent continues to focus her time on the teaching and learning in the classroom, and that's going to be harder and harder as these other needs come up. So I just think it's really important that we not only get the communications right on the work we're doing in the classroom, the annual report, and these huge building projects, but I also want to make sure that her time is focused on where we want it to be focused on, which is in the classroom and supporting her staff to do what's right by kids. So I just think it's a really important investment, and it's a small investment for it. I think the benefits will reap.
Okay. Mark, you comment? Or Lily?
Go ahead.
Lily, go
Ladies
ahead.
before gentlemen.
We're working our way down.
I just want to echo Kendra's point, which I think is the amount of time it actually takes to successfully communicate is pretty intense. And to do so meaningfully and making sure that all of those moving pieces are happening does take a great deal of coordination. So I'm actually very excited to see us look at this position as necessary and to support this position, because I do think that we have room for improvement, especially with our website, the usability of it, all the information that's on it. It's so time consuming in a way that, you know, I think having a dedicated person to do this work will really advance the mission and goals of our district in a powerful way. So I'm not only excited to see this, I think we need it. I think it is a necessary thing for us to move forward and to have, to help all community members engage with our schools as best as possible.
Mark?
Thank you. I was skeptical at first. I did have a conversation with Dee Dee this afternoon, and I reread some of the communication that was sent out, and I will be supporting this, but I will be respectfully requesting that we get a report back to the school committee in 6 months to see if we have some, you know, some things that, some data that we can show the community, show that this will continue as a good path. The deliverables, I think I'm concerned about.
Yep.
So I'm supportive at this time, but I would respectfully request that we get a very comprehensive update 6 months or so down the road.
Okay.
Can I make a recommendation? If we did it now, I think it's a great opportunity to relook at it during the next budget cycle, so we can say, you know, does this make sense continuing it? Is it necessary? What is the benefits, the values that's been added? So I think the timing would really work out for that.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Yes.
I just wanted to, you know, add one piece about like I'm definitely in support of the position. I think that even in just the last 5 years, the way that the community and parents want to be served information and the ways in which they choose to consume it is just increasingly challenging and diverse. And I just don't think it's reasonable that, the people who we have in charge, as Kendra said, in charge of teaching and learning in the district, are able to manage that kind of complexity in a way that it's going to produce communication that people can accept, consume, et cetera, in a way that works for them. I think that there's just so much diversity in how people want to receive communication that it just is very challenging. Having this person, I think, would be helpful.
Okay. Anyone else? So motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is FY '20 compensation increase for employees in community education. So we have a memo that was sent to us on that. I sent around a communication to the school committee that I had a number of questions about it, and I thought that my recommendation would be to actually table it for the moment, send it to the Budget and Finance Subcommittee, which will meet next week, and then it can come back to us. They can look at it in a little bit more detail. I think there's a lot in that, and it also kind of dovetails a little bit with the increase or approval that we made of non-aligned faculty or employees earlier, and there seemed to be a little bit of overlap there, so some clarification would be helpful. So I look for a motion to table this until our subsequent meeting, next
So
meeting.
moved.
Well, I would make a motion, I'll add to that and say that this gets referred to Budget and Finance.
Okay, yes.
So moved, second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next to be the changes to the policy manual. So this is the second reading. We went through these at the last meeting, our last school committee meeting and a first reading, and people asked a few questions at that point. And we have in front of us the results of that. Lily, do you want to walk through it quickly again?
I'm just going to say all edits are in pink, regardless of whether you have the paper copy or the online copy. Again, not substantive changes on most of them. We're really looking at minor tweaks. So if people just want to quickly glance over them, I don't think that reading through them is going to.
Maybe if you could just read the titles when we do that.
Sure. We are changing the word practical to practicable in JFABD.
Yep.
We are adding summer programs and extracurricular activities to the end of that first paragraph. We are striking awaiting foster care placement in the numerical order, and also changing the order of those numbers to reflect that.
Decent, just read the
Just the title is fine.
Just read the titles.
Of
Just the titles.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So we have school committee policy JFABD, homeless students enrollment rights and services. Again, minor changes on those. JFABE, educational opportunities for military children. JF, school admissions. JFAB, non-resident students. And GBEBD, online fundraising and solicitations and crowdfunding. So
And
again,
the last one's probably the one that has the most substantial.
Yes, the
It cuts
final
out a
one is
lot
the
of
most
detail and basically, as I recall, makes it, for online fundraising, you need permission from central
Correct.
office, basically.
That is correct. We just struck all of the details on that one and simply said the easiest way for us to be able to utilize crowdfunding appropriately would be for Dee to have the ability for Dr. Johnson to have the ability to approve any crowdfunding or solicitation.
Okay,
And then I can go through all the
Yes.
right.
details.
Okay. Okay, so I think we can do these collectively, is that okay? So we have the 5 different policy changes. Is there a motion to approve the,
So moved.
okay?
Second.
Second? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. For gifts, we have a variety of gifts here. $500 from Constance Christo to the Christo Memorial Scholarship. We have 4 different gifts from the Lowell PTO, $1,260, $1,330, $420, and $840 to various PTO-sponsored activities at the Lowell. Watertown Community Foundation, $745 for the school lunch backpack program. Dean and Ellen Polisi for the music festival, $10. Stacy Amarissi, $15 for the music festival. Patrick Michelle Flanagan, $15 for the music festival. To the Washington, D.C. trip, $100 from Andreas and Yolette Holman, and $100 from Jill Conley. $1,000 from the Watertown Cultural Council for Cuniff Arts. $1,000 from the Watertown Charitable Council for the WCCI 155 Memorial Scholarship, and then 2 $525 gifts from the class of 1969 for the 50th year scholarship. Is there a motion to approve these gifts?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thanks. Approval of minutes. So we have the minutes from our last school committee meeting. Is there,
I make a motion to approve the minutes of February 10th as written.
Second.
any changes, edits, comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next, we go to reports, the school district annual report. Dr. Galston.
Excellent. So this evening, I will provide you just with an update that the annual report is moving right along from the 18-19 school year, and it should, in all likelihood, be done on March the 23rd for the school committee meeting. I should have had this before we advocated for the communication specialist. But, you know, certainly I think that, that Dr. McGinnis has also going to help out with the annual report, and we're very excited to have that done on March the 23rd. And Ariel is starting to work on some of the graphics as well. So we're moving right along.
Okay, thank you. Building for the future, elementary schools. Mark?
Thank you. Right now, we're in the phase of bids will be going out on March 12th for the beginning phases of this, which is the Cuniff and the Hosmer. So that's kind of very exciting. We'll figure out where we are in a number of different ways, depending on how many people bid, where we are for budget. It's all going to play a significant role as to how quickly we can move forward. If we're still in budget, it's tremendous news. We do now have keys to Cuniff West, and the administration and others have been in the building. They're working to try to get that ready for the children for September. I know it's a challenge. I know there's a lot going on, but I think we're moving in a good direction there. I do want to say that I think we've tentatively scheduled, and I'll confirm this on Wednesday night, a neighborhood meeting at the Hosmer on March 12th to go over the project. I will confirm because I didn't have that on my piece of paper. What we're trying to do is go to each neighborhood school to tell people what to expect, to try to give them an idea of construction. We're also going to be voting on Wednesday evening the funds to create the new website that for all of the projects, so that you'll be able to go on a picture of each school and see where we are and what's going on, and contact information. It's several people as a subcommittee worked very hard on this, and we're looking forward to get it up and running. That's all I have on the elementary schools right now.
Okay, thank you, Mark. On the high school,
Dee Dee had something.
Well, I just wanted to add,
or elementary.
Mr. Sideris also spoke a little bit about the fact that we are doing a lot of the work in the background for the moves that are happening. I just want to make sure the community knows that both the principals at the Hosmer and the Cuniff are creating the move plans for our teachers and for all of their stuff. And the move also for preschool into the Phillips Administration Building along with pre-K. We're having the ongoing meetings weekly about all the changes that have to happen. And, you know, the impact is pretty deep in terms of scheduling specialists, you know, scheduling meetings. I mean, there's a lot of, I just want to say logistics, and I'm very just thankful for the principals that we have on board who are very mindful and detail-oriented, and I'm sure that this will go very smoothly, but it's a lot of work, so, but it's great. It's great work.
Can I answer a question?
Yes.
When will families get information from the principals about the move management plans?
Specifically, we were targeting mid-March, so very shortly.
Okay, great.
Now that we have the keys to Cuniff West, we'll be able to more formally make that plan for the Cuniff. Oh, so, sorry, it's my turn, right?
On the high school, yep.
Excellent. And just one other point, I know that about the elementary, and then I'll move on to the high school. We've spoken about the fact that, you know, several changes have happened, and we do know that we are moving a lot of people into smaller spaces, so we do know that there are going to be some, you know, challenges associated with that. One of the moves that we recently made a decision around is moving the learning support program from the Cuniff, where it is currently housed, and we're going to temporarily house that at the Lowell Elementary School just because Cuniff West is not necessarily suited for our students in the learning support program. Families have been informed, and the staff know, and, I think, again, it's one of those changes, but I think in the end, it's best for the students and the staff, and they will move right back in when the Cuniff is done into their new facility. So that's just one change that has happened.
Do you know how many students are involved?
I believe right now there's 6. Kathy left. I think there's 6 right now.
Okay.
Yep. So in terms of the high school, so at the last school building committee meeting last Thursday, there was a vote taken to submit the preliminary design program to the MSBA. That includes the educational program, the space summary, and potential evaluation of sites. So all that means is that we are ready now to be very thorough about the investigation around the sites and the space and the building that will be built, and that is the work of the next 6 months. So again, it's a very exciting time for the high school as well.
Any questions?
Just want to add that we removed the Moxley site from consideration in that vote to do the preliminary design plan.
Right. All right, thanks, Mark. Anything else, other questions?
I have a
comments?
question.
Yeah, Ken?
Do you know the timing for when MSB comes back to us with, feedback or thoughts?
Yep, so we actually will put forth the preferred schematic report, I believe, in, September? Well, and at that
September
point in
10th.
time, then they will be providing the feedback. There are.
Well, they don't do it until September.
They don't, and.
Interesting, okay.
We make the decisions. They just want to make sure that we've done a thorough job evaluating the options.
Okay.
So it's not like when we selected the designer, where they actually
Right.
selected the designer.
Right.
They don't select our site, they don't select our building. They just ensure that we have done everything that we can and that we're as thorough as possible, so that when we put forth in September, what the actual site in the preferred schematic report indicates, that then they will say, yes, you've done your due diligence, and we'll continue in the process.
Great.
It isn't until February of 2021 is the ideal time that the board would take a vote to partner with us and to do the grant funding. So
Okay.
we have a little ways to go.
Great, thank you.
Mark also is, I'm sorry.
But I think I was just going to add to that point there, the document that we approved, that this building committee approved, the preliminary design, isn't a kind of major decision on the MSBA point.
Yep. Yeah, okay.
That's, they accept it, they look at it,
Process.
but then they say, just keep going.
Gotcha.
Yeah, just to add to that, a couple of things. They tell you what they want to see in this preliminary design report.
Right.
So the thing is about this thick.
Yes, it's 700 pages.
Includes a number of different things, as Dee Dee said. But I do want to mention that we, meaning myself, the project manager and the architect, are intending on trying to get a sense of the school building committee of where we're going in June, before people leave for the summer, and we come back right at the beginning of September and say, this is where we're going. We want to give people an opportunity to think about, after all these community forums and the number of school building committees we're going to have between now and then. It's our intention of getting a sense of the committee on a placement of this building in June.
Okay. Great, thank you.
And then to that point, there is a high school community forum, March 26th.
Yes.
So add that to the
Yes,
conversation.
yeah. That'll be in the auditorium at the high school.
Right, right. Any other?
6:30? Yes,
6:30?
6:30 to 8.
Okay. Any other questions on the building for the future? Personnel report, we have in our packets information on that. So a few appointments, not very many at this point in time. Enrollments, Dr. Galston, any
Enrollment,
changes?
nothing that would impact our, staffing at this point in time. I would like to say that potentially at the March 23rd meeting, or the first, March 23rd, I'd like to do a presentation of the NASDAQ enrollment projections, along with decision insights. So we do have those moving forward, so I think it's always good to share with the community what the projections look like for the future, which will also be part of our conversation tomorrow night at the Budget and Finance Subcommittee.
Okay.
So,
The disposition of surplus property, we don't have anything on that
Oh, it's
for
coming
this
soon, though.
meeting? Pardon?
It's coming soon, though.
It will, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
All the trash.
Lots of surplus property. Warrants, we have in our packet, we have the list of the warrants. Any questions there? And then finally, two reports here, the school committee chair. I'll just a couple quick comments. One is that we do have a ad hoc subcommittee to look at the legal services. So that's myself, Lily, and Lindsay, and then the superintendent will also sit with us. We'll be meeting next week to start that process, to look at the kind of requests for services and kind of a timeline for how we can proceed over the next several weeks in terms of hiring a legal firm for moving forward. The other comment I would make, it was mentioned earlier, I attended the Chicago, the play, which was great, I have to say.
It's
So you get
fantastic.
chances, I mean, I'm sure at middle school, lots of events going on, but that was a rousing performance in the auditorium. And superintendent's report.
Excellent. So I just wanted to recognize the fact that this evening we heard a lot of items around the great work that's being done in the district. That's all pretty much aligned with our district improvement strategy. So just as a highlights, once again, we met our new principal, and we're again thankful for the work of our outgoing principal, but we're very excited about the future of the high school. We learned a little bit more about how we take care of the social, emotional, and behavioral health of our students, primarily by looking at data and making sure that we're moving in the right direction for interventions. We looked at our DCAP, ensuring that we meet the needs of all of our students through the use of the DCAP. So that, again, is a great example of our alignment with our district improvement strategy. And then with our it's already been said, but our high school program of studies, providing all of our high school students with robust and varied educational opportunities, and especially with an emphasis on authentic learning, which I think is a big key moving forward for our high school. And then really working on increasing communication by the addition of a communication strategist. I mean, when you see a meeting that really weaves in all of the work that we're doing, I think it's pretty fantastic. And it was great to have a crowd this evening. Thank you for everyone that came and shared with us what they were doing. Just an update, I know that there was a communication sent out to families and staff around the coronavirus, COVID-19. That is something that obviously we are monitoring very closely, every day. We have a critical incidents team, which we've talked about before in this, at the school committee level, that is a group of people that includes all of our principals, the director of public buildings, our director of student services, who also oversees the nurses. So we met last Thursday, and it includes extended day, I'm sorry, there's many people at the table, and Ms. Perkins, just to really, focus on what do we need to do to get ready for if there's a potential outbreak of the coronavirus here in our area. One of the strategies that we've moved forward with is we will be meeting weekly in a subcommittee of people, which will include the Department of Public Buildings, a principal, myself, and a few other people, just to monitor and determine what our next appropriate steps are. Right now, one of the things that we determined last Thursday is the Director of Public Buildings is putting together our cleaning plan. We already have a cleaning plan, but I'm clearly articulating it so families and staff know exactly what it is that we do. We've always had a pretty strong protocol around disinfecting, et cetera, because of the flu season, but it's not something that we've ever shared, and that is something that we will do in the coming days based on that work of the CIT. We hope that this isn't something that becomes greater than it already is, but if it is, we want to make sure that the community knows that we are planning, thinking, preparing for, and we will make whatever steps or take whatever steps that we need to keep our students and our staff safe. One last thing is, other than the annual report, which is in my superintendent's goals, one of the things that we have talked about is having climate and culture surveys that are administered to students, staff, and parents. And that is something in cooperation with the school committee chair. We have moved forward and selected a survey that we're going to be using, which is out of the University of Chicago. It's called the 5E survey. It talks about the 5 essentials for effective schools. And tomorrow I'll be speaking with the person who is coordinating that for us, and we look forward to hopefully distributing those surveys at the end of March, early April. and then using those data to inform any kind of celebrations that we should have, but also what areas do we need to improve in terms of culture and climate for our schools. So that is what I'd like to share with the community.
Great, and then we may have a presentation on those at the next meeting?
Yep, yes, for sure.
For the school committee, have more information about it. Other questions, Superintendent? Nope. New business? Any new business? Nope. Announcements?
Just real quick, the middle school is looking for recipes for an international community cookbook. And they are asking anybody to please get a family kind of recipe that you'll be willing to share, anything from your heritage, your culture, or just a favorite recipe that you love. They're going to be doing this as a fundraiser for the middle school PTO. And you can submit them to Lorena Moynihan at lorena.moynihan@gmail.com or Gina Brennan at gbrennan@newtonrealestate.com. We highly encourage as many community members to participate in this. I'm kind of excited. I hope as many people sitting around here would also participate and submit some. I can't cook, but I'm going to try. But, you know, again, it's a wonderful opportunity, and it's a really cool way to also see all the different kind of communities that we have here in Watertown and do some great work.
Okay, great.
John, I have one.
We have a series of announcements. Go ahead.
So I want to announce that Watertown's very own John Vitti is receiving one of 6 individual community service awards at this year's South by Southwest Conference in Austin, Texas on March 14th. The awards recognize the difference one person can make in a community. Mr. Vitti is a veteran journalist in Boston, a journalism teacher at Watertown High, and the founder of the nonprofit Headliners in Education. For those who don't know, he has created an online student journalism program throughout the Watertown Public Schools, starting with the Cunniff Kids News in 2007. He now runs online papers in all 5 schools, impacting more than 225 students, and with a readership well into the thousands. As a national advocate for the educational opportunities student journalism provides, Mr. Vitti advises students and teachers in over 125 greater Boston schools. His goal is not to inspire the next generation of newspaper and television reporters, but rather to give students the tools they need to become better writers. The Community Service Award celebrates the life and work of South by Southwest Interactive co-founder Dewey Winburn. Honorees are selected by an Austin-based committee and South by Southwest staff who review nominations based on the qualities of community, compassion, care, and education that Winburn brought to his tenure at South by Southwest. The award is intended to honor individuals whose creative community service work bridges the digital divide, impacts the community positively, includes some degree of grassroots or hands-on organizing, and who has a body of work and a track record of community service. This award is absolutely well-deserved, and I personally want to thank John for all he has done and continues to do for the students of Watertown. He sets a tremendous example that we should all strive to emulate.
Great, great. Thank you very much. We have very robust student newspapers in Watertown, that's for sure. Any other? We have a series of announcements in our packet here on the agenda. The Budget and Finance Subcommittee meeting tomorrow at 5:30, and then also the 12th and this March 17th. The Building Committee, School Building Committee, March 4th and the 18th. The CPAC on March 12th. The Anti-Bias Coalition on March 16th. The Curriculum Subcommittee on March 18th. The school committee, next school committee meeting will be March 23rd at Watertown Middle School. This is one of our ventures out to the individual schools. As was mentioned earlier, the community forums on March 26th, Superintendent's Coffee March 30th, the Anti-Bias Coalition again on March 31st. Any other announcements? Isn't the spelling bee coming up?
Yes, the 29th. March 29th.
March 29th for the spelling bee. Okay.
Yes, at the hospital.
Public forum. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.